Hello and welcome back to XCom 2's multiplayer. This is the follow-up video to the Codex Special that I did a little while ago, and I wanted to take the opportunity to run through a couple of options that you have to try and build your squad loadouts to cope with someone who might be abusing this sort of tactic. So if I just run into the squad loadouts, I can show you the where is it? There we go. It's dead simple, is what it boils down to. The only disadvantage is that by the time you know someone's going to be using the Codex Clone Army, it's too late to try and counter it. But if you're going up against a mate and you kind of expect that he's about to use it, or you know you're seeing certain people in the multiplayer scene repeating this over and over, then you can go in armed and pre-prepare yourself by well, pretty much abusing the gatekeeper instead. Now the gatekeeper is not the be all and end all. He has plenty of weaknesses, snipers with armor-piercing ammo, for example. Put simply, if you take a gatekeeper, you're not just like guaranteed to win, but they are especially good at taking out the Codex, and I will try and talk through why. Now, it says in the loadout screen that they have 3 armor, but that 3 armor is when their shell is open. When their shell is closed, they get an additional 3 armor, which brings it up to 6. And the Codex's Codex rifle, I don't know if it shows it in here, so let me just have a quick look. No, it does not. The Codex rifle only does 4 to 5 damage, which means that at best they can only do 1 damage to you per turn, and you have 20 health. As you might imagine, that's going to be quite terrifying to come across, even if you do have an army of teleporting clones. Let's have a look at it in game. So, these are your hard hitters. 6 armor, 20 health, that is absolutely terrifying. From the other side of the playing field, the first indication you might have that someone is using this sort of tactic is you hear an explosion in the distance, followed by lots of these very strange empty activity is happening here with an accompanying teleport sound. And you can expect that to continue, well, for quite a long time, I suppose. Now, gatekeepers are massive. I'm talking like 4 squares big. They also don't care about walls, so you probably want to just make a beeline straight for where you've seen that activity. Try and spread out a little, as hard as it is with just 2 units. You want to be able to cover as much ground as possible. And then look to get high angles on the battlefield. Not only will the elevation help you with your aim, it will prevent the codexes from getting aim bonuses against you. You'll likely have to sit through quite a lot of explosions and codex teleports on their turn, but that's alright. If you're prepared like this, you have nothing to worry about. And by this point, it shouldn't be long before you actually start getting eyes on those little bastards. Now, assuming your opponent has common sense, they will teleport away from your gatekeepers rather than risk exposure. Just remember to keep advancing and try and keep yourself in some sort of elevated position. Inevitably, they are going to have to engage, and when they do, the flaws of the Codex become quite apparent. They have absolutely terrible accuracy. I'm talking like 45% chance to hit at point blank range against your gatekeepers. And even when they do hit, because of your ridiculous amount of armor, I think they can only do a maximum of 1 point of damage. Unfortunately, armour can't prevent everything. There is always 1 point of damage that gets through, but that gives you 20 hits, and they only hit less than half the time. As if that wasn't enough to sell the Gatekeeper as an anti-codex unit, we haven't even gotten onto the good stuff yet. When codexes try their disabling Rift psionic power, it has no effect on the Gatekeeper at all. Sure, it might look like it's out of ammo, but it can still shoot. And even if it was disabled, you still have the AoE gateway power, which does a huge amount of damage and is great for clearing up masses of the codexes. It's unlikely you'll get this many in one go. If you do decide to stay in the area affected by the codex's psychic abilities, then just be aware that it is armor piercing. But finally, you can use the consumability on your Gatekeepers to eat the enemy and heal yourself, as if they weren't overpowered enough already. So that's pretty much it. Just be aware that if you do use the psychic side of Gatekeepers, you will have to open your shell. It does reduce your armor a little, but usually you're only doing so if you've got like a really good kill or heal coming up. And if you get shot while your shell is open, it will close automatically. But this is about anti-codex tactics rather than the Gatekeeper specifically, so I shall leave its pros and cons for another time. And as with the last video, I want to give you a couple of other options for taking this into higher or lower points costs. If you're playing in the lower end, towards 7,500, you might want to consider a pair of chrysalids. These guys can burrow, they've got quite effective poison attacks. Sure, they're going to suffer a little by having the mass of codexes teleporting around them and getting flank shots all over the place, but they're really just a support to fill up the points for your one Gatekeeper. The other option you might want to consider is bringing along a gunslinger for those 2,500 points. And if you've gone for higher points values anyway, you may just want to include more gunslingers just as part of your squad loadout. The main reason for doing that is that using the face-off skill, you could very easily take out 4 or perhaps even 5 codexes just with a single skill use, coupled with your lightning hand skill and quick draw. It was not unreasonable to think that should they teleport around you and not kill you immediately because, say, they're focusing on the Gatekeepers, you can run your gunslinger out of wherever you've squirreled them away and go bam 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 and take out the lot of them. Anyway, I hope that gives you some ideas of how best to counteract the Codex army. It's not unbeatable, there are options, but as I've mentioned before, your Gatekeepers, they're also not unbeatable. Pretty much everything has its counter tactics. The only difference is that I actually think the Gatekeeper is worth 5,000 points, whereas the Codex should probably cost more. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I will see you soon for more XCOM 2 multiplayer matches.